13,000. That's a big number. And it's the number of young men that the Tulsa Boys Home has served during its first 100 years. And it all started with one idea: to help boys in need and bring them healing from their past and give them hope for their future. The Tulsa Boys Home was founded in 1918. It had humble beginnings with a small 2-story house in downtown Tulsa. During the early years, the Tulsa Boys Home grew rapidly, and in 1924 became part of an organization that would soon evolve into Tulsa Area United Way. In 1979, the Tulsa Boys Home moved to its current location in Sand Springs. The Tulsa Boys Home was the first of its kind, and still remains the largest residential treatment facility serving troubled boys in Oklahoma.
The Boys Home was established in response to a tremendous need. So here we are, 100 years later, and I could make the argument that there's 10 times the need today for the mission of the Tulsa Boys Home than there was even 100 years ago.
It's worth everything that we could ever do. We've changed the lives of young men. Most of them have come from homes where the dad beat on them, didn't take care of them, terrible things that you don't even want to talk about. We changed those boys, made men out of them.
In 1958, my granddad, who was the chairman of the board at that time, took me out to the Boys Home when it was near downtown, and I was about 8 years old. And the facility there looked like an army barracks.
Today, I look out there and it looks like a college campus. It really is. We're proud of our home.
In 1992, it was at our 75-year anniversary. And I got to see that we had moved out to this campus and we had done other things and we had grown and we were doing other things with the boys. They were orphans in 1958, and now they were mostly what Greg Conway calls them is the orphans of the 21st century.
We work with some of the most broken and deeply wounded boys. The most prevalent diagnosis of our boys coming to the Boys Home right now is PTSD. Only they weren't in a combat situation, in a sense, and being in the military. They saw their mom get stabbed or shot by a boyfriend or a stepdad in their living room at home.
So my story leading up to the Tulsa Boys Home, I actually just got out of JDC, Juvenile Detention Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I had anger issues. I didn't like authority. A lot of it was because I was abandoned as a kid. At an early age, I was abandoned. It was like, well, you're not going to be there for me then. Why you want to be there for me now when I'm already, a teenager now? Like, I was overall out of control. And that's ultimately what led me up to go into the Boys Home.
These are the guys who've been in 25 or 35 or sometimes 50 failed foster home placements. What we are trying to do is help them heal so that they could leave the Boys Home and go live in a home like yours or mine and be successful this time and not get rejected and kicked out and abandoned.
The first 3 months was a struggle. There was a particular staff by the name of Terry Bradford. I just looked at him as the biggest staff on campus that he didn't have a problem wrapping up a kid, and I was like, yeah, that's who I'm getting. I'm getting him one way or the other. And I think where it changed for me was when one day he pulled me into his lodge and he cut my hair, and I got to sit down and I got to know the guy. He's really just wanting to take time to get to know me and build a rapport with me. And I think that meant a lot to me because I never had people that took the time to do that for me.
Even though they came from terrible backgrounds, that's the hand they were dealt. They can't help that. But when they see that who they are and what they have to contribute can improve the lives of other people by coming and experiencing church at other places, contributing at other places that are in need, that sets them up for success, because one day they're going to leave the Boys Home, and the experiences they have at your organization, at my organization, at people that you impact in the community, the people that we impact, they're going to realize that they have something to offer and they can make a difference in this world. And they'll learn that when we not only go and invest in them, but then bring them out and allow them the opportunity to invest in our communities as well.
Most boys who come to Tulsa Boys Home come from difficult backgrounds. So by having a wide variety of programs, the volunteers at TBH make sure every child's need is taken care of. One of the most recent and successful forms of treatment has come with the introduction of one of man's oldest friends. The Tulsa Boys Home calls it the Spur Model. This model was created to engage the boys in a treatment that would be challenging and fun while teaching them social interaction with a creature that, like them, needed to be understood and valued.
Our treatment has had to become a lot more sophisticated. So we have all master's level therapists that are highly trained in how to treat PTSD, because that's what these guys have that are coming to us nowadays. Equine therapy has become sort of a cornerstone of our counseling with our guys, of our therapy.
I heard a story that stuck with me about a young boy that went out in the arena. There's a horse there, and he started petting him and trying to brush him, and all of a sudden the horse ran off. And the boy just laid down and started crying. The counselor went out to say, "Son, what's wrong with you?" "Well, that horse was just like my dad. Every time I tried to get close to him, he'd run off." That hit me.
This boy, Thomas, had a terrible verbal abuse. Not necessarily just cussing, just tearing down whoever he was around. I said, "Do you not remember last week what happened? You had a horse over in the corner and you were just giving him heck, telling him he was stupid and ignorant, didn't know anything, wouldn't listen." And he goes, "Well, yeah, kind of." I said, "Well, that's the horse." And he sees the boy and he starts moving toward. The boy's like, "Oh, no, what are we gonna do?" I said, "We're gonna be calm and you need to be still and don't do anything." So no more had he stepped forward. The horse is coming. He starts to reach out and touch him on the mane, and the horse comes in and around him, just gives him a big old horse hug. And the kid melts, and he forgets it. He's in the moment now. He's actually connected with this animal in a way that he's never connected with a human. And from then on, he started to do better school. He lost weight. He was eating better. He started treating other people with respect, and himself, most importantly. He carried himself out of here a new man. And the best of all, he got to go back to Grandma and live. Thomas was one of those boys that we really were able to rescue and rebuild and reintegrate in a phenomenal way. And horses had a very, very big impact in his life.
Believe it or not, I got restraint one night. And I think at that point, for me, it was like, what am I angry about? Why do I need to be angry for nothing? And from that point on, the rest was all history. From there, I got out of the Tulsa Boys Home and picked up a trade, learned how to weld. It wasn't until 2018, it was in March, I went and pursued my career at the Tulsa Boys Home. I never thought in a million years that I could have the choice, the freedom to walk away and be successful. You have that power. You can make that decision that I don't have to live like this. I could be something.
One of the most important events for the Tulsa Boys Home is the Hope Tour. The Hope Tour is an opportunity for people to get an in-depth understanding of what the 160-acre site has to offer. It's also one of the best ways for people to see firsthand the healing and hope that the Tulsa Boys Home brings to the young men of Oklahoma.
Hope tours are simply a tour of the Boys Home mission, so that people walk away telling us, "I had no idea that this was what the mission of the Tulsa Boys Home was all about." Faith-based groups are evolving into volunteers who not only become tutors and mentors and sometimes foster homes, but we're actually beginning to see adoptions take place. There's a lot of opportunity there through these Hope Tours for us to continue to recruit the kind of volunteers that we need to take care of our guys.
The way that Life Church got involved at the Tulsa Boys Home began with Jeff Johnson invited Brett and Linda Neal, a couple that have attended our church for years, to come see the Boys Home. Well, they saw it, loved it, and they brought their life group with them. So about a dozen people started going out on a consistent basis, and they adopted one of the lodge so they could just focus on those boys. What originally started as a dozen people getting involved at the Boys Home, over time, because they loved it so much, they invited others to come. Now we have literally hundreds of volunteers that go out every single month to invest in the lives of these kids. And not only do we send human resource and people to do that, but we back that up financially in the form of grants, because the Boys Home does such a good job of engaging our attenders. In the last 4 years, we've been able to give them $265,000 to help them effectively care for these boys that are in their care. And there's stories that we have heard about through our involvement at the church. And one of those is about a young man named Dakota. And I mentioned Brent and Linda Neal earlier, how their life group came out, which then led to the floodgates opening of hundreds of volunteers coming to the Boys Home as well. One of those volunteers is a young lady named Leslie. Well, Leslie was the mentor of Dakota when he was 15. And through that relationship, Leslie's family just rallied around her parents, her sister, as they began to love on this young man, Dakota. And when he was 16 years old, and one of the only adoptions in that 100-year history, Dakota was adopted as a 16-year-old boy. It is so rare for kids to be adopted out of troubled homes like this, but it's even rarer for a older teenage boy to be adopted like that. And now when we see Dakota now, he's 20 years old, his life is drastically different. How was that possible? The effective leadership at the Tulsa Boys Home, to not only provide a loving, caring environment for these boys, but also opening the doors, engaging the community, saying, hey, come over here. What gifts do you have? You can use those gifts. And not only will it be something that makes a difference, but it's going to make a lifelong difference in the lives of these boys. And Dakota is a great example of that. And that's a reflection of the leadership that's enabled the Tulsa Boys Home to be here for 100 years.
So the general population, the community at large, can really they can get involved in the Boys Home in a lot of different ways. People can support the Boys Home financially as one of our financial partners. They can become a mentor. The data is crystal clear about the impact of mentors, one-on-one mentors.
So much of the love out here comes through our volunteer program and our mentors that come out and just engage with them. And I think that's been a real developmental part of the program. We're just excited that we have so many interested folks that like to come out and find out more about us and find ways to plug in by just using their own gifts and things that they love. It's not our presence or our gifts, but it's our presence. Just being here for them is what they need and want the most.
Because whatever it is you can do, there's something for you. Are you a good baker? Come bake cakes at the Boys Home. Are you good at playing guitar? Come teach lessons at the Boys Home. Do you like to read? Come help kids learn how to read at the Boys Home. You know, one of the statements that never escaped us, it really captured our attention, was this. It was, we have no problem finding people to donate footballs to the Boys Home. What we have problems with is finding someone to show up and throw that football with these young boys. And when we saw the opportunity and how really there is unlimited opportunities for you to volunteer there, they're there 24/7. You can come anytime. Whatever you are passionate about and good at doing, there's something for you to do. And the great thing is you can not only do what you love, but in doing what you love, you make a tremendous impact on the life of the young man.
We have our Run for the Roses as our premier fundraising event every year. It's a Kentucky Derby party, and it kind of ties in with our equine therapy theme. And the community has responded very favorably to that. We have a sellout crowd of over 700 people every year at Run for the Roses. Our goal is for that to net $500,000 a year. And then we also have the Frank Rhodes Golf Classic. Frank Rhodes, golly, he has been chairing that golf tournament single-handedly for about 25 years now.
Interesting part about that, they always take you to lunch and they say that you need to get on a committee now that you've agreed to be on the board. They say, well, we do this and that. We have a golf tournament. I say, whoa, yeah, what? You have a golf tournament. Okay. So I've ended up doing that now every year since then. And I think it's 25 years and 26 tournaments. We've raised about $2.3 million that have gone to help the boys here at the Boys Home.
The Tulsa Boys Home has and always will be dedicated to serving the young men of Oklahoma by stepping into the gap left by wounded families, poor choices, and circumstances outside of our control. With donations from our generous givers and the countless hours that our humble volunteers continue to give, the Tulsa Boys Home will continue to provide world-class service and continue to push the boundaries and set new standards in our field. In the last 100 years, the Tulsa Boys Home and its donors have laid a solid foundation that will continually propel us forward for the next 100 years.
I won't be here that much longer, I know that. At the same time, that boys' home is going to be there. And we'll continue to change those lives. I get sentimental, boys, I'm sorry, when I start to talk about it because it's very close to my heart.
I really feel like our mandate is to ensure the viability of the Tulsa Boys Home for the next 100 years. It's not an inexpensive mission. I mean, 24/7 residential care is an expensive type of care. We talk about return on investment, the ROI for breaking that chain and cycle of abuse and neglect for many generations to follow.
I don't think you can put a value on the life of a boy. If we could change one boy's life, it's been worthwhile. But we've changed a lot more than just one boy.
If I could put my finger on any part of a legacy that I could be recognized for, it would be pulling together a team of some of the most amazing people on the planet. Their love for our boys, that's the magic. Since 1918, we've had over 13,000 boys, but I think we would do it all again. If it broke the cycle of abuse and neglect in that one boy's family tree, it would be worth it all.
I couldn't imagine how many boys have come into that program in the last 100 years. But if I could change one life, that's enough for me. And you're looking at one of the lives out of that 100 years that was changed and transformed into something positive. There is hope on the other side. The healing is very real.
Just think about it, guys. We've changed all these lives, all these years, 100 years. And I think, boy, to celebrate 100 years of the Boys Home, yes, let's do it.